Today, I'm here at the farmer's market where Gordon has inspired me to create an amazing dish with whatever these incredible vendors have brought to the market. It's gonna feel a little bit like grabbing items off the platform on Next Level Chef. Whatever I get from here, my goal is to be able to use it when I go and create my dish later. I'm Gabi, and this is my next course. So today, we are going to one of my favorite places, the farmer's market. I love going to the farmer's market. I try and go every week because honestly, every week it changes. But is there a way that I can be doing this differently? And so I thought that this would be another perfect opportunity to utilize my mentorship with Chef Ramsay. So I decided to reach out and ask him, hey, what can I be doing here going to this farmer's market? Is there anything new that I can be doing? Any way that I can really enhance this experience?
If it were me, I'd be smart and look for produce I'm not familiar with. Something to really challenge myself. I also value learning from the farmer themselves. This really helps me to become inspired.
I feel like now I'm going to be going to the farmer's market with a fresh perspective, and now I have a challenge on my hands. So the goal here is to take home things from the farmer's market and then use all of them in a dish. I'm at the Brooklyn Borough Hall Green Market, which is a local Brooklyn farmers market. I really want to learn today about different varieties of what is available and really see what's new that these vendors have brought in.
This market actually is going on its 40th year. We're a producer-only farmers market, which means you basically have to be growing, raising, catching, or baking whatever it is you're selling.
Amazing. Well, all I have to do now is start my farm, and then I can finally be on the other side of this. Halal Pastures is one of my favorite vendors to visit because they provide an incredible array of vegetables. Wow, there's a lot of good stuff here. All right, what can I make here? What's new? What's exciting? I'm looking at kohlrabi, spring onions, variety of different lettuces. We have all these root vegetables. From here to here is all radish. They're just so beautiful. They kind of match. I really want to focus on these greens. There's so many different varieties of kale alone. And this is really getting my wheels turning about how I can maybe transform some of these greens into something that's going to highlight these beautiful light flavors of this specific crop of kale. It's so savory. I have to admit, kale isn't my favorite, but this is unlike any kale that I've really ever tasted before. This is arugula. This arugula is brand new and it's so tiny. Just this little baby leaf. Let's taste it. Has that signature peppery flavor, but it also has that really intense savoriness, just like the kale. And would you look at this? We have some green garlic. Typically you think of garlic as a bulb, but green garlic I've not really used a lot before, but I have a feeling it would go really well with the flavors of the kale and the arugula, fresh radishes. So this is something I definitely think that I'm gonna take home as well. Hi, are these new to the market?
Yeah, they are new. They are first time here.
Really?
Yeah.
First time?
After a long time.
All right. What a day. I came to this farmer's market hoping to find inspiration, and honestly, I not only left with plenty of that, but also some amazing locally grown produce. I'm really excited to take what we've got here today and cook it up and make something delicious. As you can see, we have a little bit of a theme in color. So I'm really excited to use these greens. And honestly, to me, what better way to showcase greens than a pesto? I feel like a lot of us are familiar with pesto in the sense of basil, pine nuts, and some olive oil and Parmesan cheese. What I want to do today, I want to use these greens rather than an herb. I feel like these are going to provide the kind of flavor that I want in a pesto. And not to mention, pesto also has garlic in it, and I have these garlic scapes. So it almost feels like everything that I grabbed from the farmer's market was meant to be turned into a beautiful pesto. So what goes better with pesto than pasta? I feel like a nice pasta with fresh green pesto. It looks vibrant, it's delicious. So I wanna start with making my dough. I'm gonna start off with about 2 cups of just 00 flour. And then a cup of whole wheat flour. I really like the idea and the incorporation of using some wheat flour because it's just gonna give it that deeper flavor. It's gonna give it a nice hefty pinch of salt. I'm gonna go ahead and create a well, and I'm gonna just crack my eggs into the middle of my flour. All I'm gonna do is start by really working the edges of this flour into the pasta with a fork and just kind of slowly start to beat everything together. I'm working it in, and now it's starting to turn into a little bit more of a dough. Go ahead and turn this out onto my countertop. I like to use this technique with my hands where I'm sort of folding it and turning it. That's sort of the best way to ensure that as you're kneading your dough, you're getting a different part of the dough each time. Now starts the fun process of kneading your dough. It kind of goes by touch. It's like when you get to that point where your pasta is just feeling like it's really smooth and it's all together. All that I'm gonna do is make sure that it's in a nice tight ball, but really this is my dough. My dough's looking really good. And yeah, and you see how as I'm pressing it, it's not springing back quite so quickly. I think that's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna grab some plastic wrap it up nice and tight. This is going into the fridge to rest because then that gluten will relax a little bit and it's gonna be a lot easier when I roll it out to make my actual pasta noodles. All right, so it's time to move into the pesto portion of this dish. I know pine nuts are really the traditional pesto nut that's used, but I really love walnuts. And I'm definitely gonna use some fresh Parmesan cheese. What I'm gonna start by doing is blanching my greens. I'm gonna basically just sort of load my strainer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and submerge these greens. Basically, I'm going from this hot boiling water and then immediately into this ice water. So then it stops the cooking. And then I'm gonna just go ahead and give them a squeeze, get out that excess moisture. So I'm gonna just go ahead and put this directly into my food processor. Now it's time to move on to my green garlic. Because things are seasonal and because things like this only come up so often and they have a really short growing season, it takes me years to really figure out how to use some of these vegetables. And so I'm really happy that I found it this time and I was at the market the right day. I'm going to add in a good bit of my toasted walnuts, maybe like a handful and a half, a handful and a half. I really like to use a microplane for grating in my Parmesan because I feel like it does just a great job of getting the exact amount of Parmesan that I want. Popping the top on, locked and loaded. Let's give it a little whiz. So I'm liking the way this is looking. I'm liking the way that it's smelling. And now as it's running, I'm going to drizzle in olive oil until I start to see it turn into more of a liquid. And yes, I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a good amount of salt and a good amount of parm. One thing I gotta say is that I am definitely getting my workout in today, making this pasta dish. It is a full body experience. We love to taste as we go. Delicious. Really, really, really good. Next, I'm going to brown my lamb. I feel like this lamb is going to tie in because it lends itself going really well with lighter flavors, which I feel like is going to make it go really nicely with this pesto. But first, what I want to do is create a nice seasoning for it. So I'm going to toast some coriander seeds and some fennel seeds. What I'm doing when I'm toasting these seasonings, these spices, they have oils packed into them. And when you heat up those oils, it really brings out the fragrancy, the flavor, and the aroma of these. I'm just gonna kind of make sure that I'm agitating them pretty frequently until I start to kind of smell them. Now I'm going to do a nice season of salt and pepper. I'm gonna just bring this lamb right onto the pan. I'm gonna season this side. I'm gonna immediately start just crushing this lamb. So I'm trying to get a nice brown on it. So I'm gonna let it on this side for a little bit of time. And then as I'm doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and crush up my fennel and coriander. I really love a mortar and pestle. I feel like it's one of my favorite objects in a kitchen. And I kind of like that it leaves little bits of chunks as opposed to like a really fine powder. And you don't really get that with store-bought spices. I like to kind of go a little crazy with breaking it up because this is a pasta, so I want the chunks to be small. But that brown is what I want. That's that really nice flavor that's gonna develop. And as I'm letting that cook, I'm gonna go ahead and get my pasta out of the fridge. So my pasta dough at this point is really well rested. So basically what I'm gonna do now is roll it out and cut it into actual pasta noodles. So the first thing I'm gonna do is quarter this dough because you can only handle so much going through a pasta roller at a time. What I like to do to kind of give it a nice shape at first, I kind of turn it into more or less a rectangle. So I like to start it nice and slow. Just like that. So now it's going through number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, and honestly, I want this particular pasta noodle to be a little on the thicker side. Look at that. And I'm gonna just give this a nice generous little dusting because this is really when things start to stick together. I'm going to cut this by hand because I wanna make sure that it has that really beautiful shape that I'm looking for. So if you're hand cutting pasta, you really wanna make sure that you have a good sharp knife that you can trust because otherwise you're gonna be pulling and snagging on the dough, but this is going to just so easily cut through and make a beautiful pasta noodle. I'm just gonna kind of create sort of a nest with these. I have my beautiful handmade whole wheat pasta. So I have my lamb. And actually one thing I do want to do is add a little bit more green garlic into this dish. I just love this green garlic and I feel like if I can cook it down a little bit, it's going to melt into the dish. Now is the fun part. We're going to boil the pasta. So going to take all of these noodles. Is it a noodle? I think so. I don't know. Once this starts to float to the top, that's when it's ready to go into my lamb. Oh wow, it's floating really fast. So I'm just gonna give it a little bit more, but it's rolled to such a nice thickness. And I'm gonna go ahead and just put this directly into my pan with the lamb. I don't wanna really drain it. My goal is to allow this pasta to have some of that water clinging on because I want that pasta water. That starchy, salty water is going to help fortify my sauce. Now I have my beautiful green pesto. I'm just gonna go ahead, put a big spoonful right into my pasta. Nice crank of fresh pepper and drizzle more of olive oil. All right, I'm grabbing my bowl and then simply pick up this pasta. And now the only thing left to do is let this parm do its thing. So I'm going to give it a nice grate, one more crack of black pepper. And this is my beautiful handmade pasta with lamb and spices and baby greens from the market pesto. I feel like this is pretty beautiful. So first thing I need to do is take a picture because I'm gonna wanna send this to Chef Ramsay. So let's see. All right, looks good. I have this beautiful handmade pasta. It's nice and tender, and I'm gonna make sure that I get a nice piece of the ground lamb. Wow, you get those flavors of the pesto, the lamb, as a really nice complement to those earthier flavors, especially since this pesto was made with a more custom blend. I had my baby arugula, baby kale, my radish tops. This dish is also such a great representation right now of what's in season. I think I'm just gonna take some notes and write down this recipe because I feel like it really works.